This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, July 18th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
The campaigning on hold for President Biden as he self-isolates in Delaware.
He just tested positive for COVID.
I'm Clayton Neville.
A new poll sharply undercuts President Biden's claim that average Democrats are still with him. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
J.D. Vance delivers his acceptance speech.
We need President Donald J. Trump.
As Republicans prepare to wrap up their convention. I'm Steve Futterman in Milwaukee.
Members of Congress want answers from the head of the Secret Service following last weekend's assassination attempt on Donald Trump. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
On Wall Street, two directions for stocks. The Dow opens at a record this morning, and the Nasdaq sold off more than 2%. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A New Jersey senator considers resigning from Congress. We'll tell you why. All ahead on America in the Morning. With the RNC in full display, a surprise from the White House. President Biden is at home in Delaware after testing positive for COVID-19 while campaigning in Nevada. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
About 90 minutes after President Biden was slated to speak at a Unidos U.S. event in Las Vegas.
I was just on the phone with President Biden, and he shared his deep disappointment at not being able to join us this afternoon.
The group's president had an announcement.
He just tested positive for COVID.
The White House confirmed the president tested positive for COVID earlier in the day after his first event in Vegas, and insisted he is vaccinated and boosted against the virus and has mild symptoms. Republicans jumping on the news at the RNC in Milwaukee with the president's health and age, 81, already top of mind.
There is simply too much at stake to have someone who can barely shuffle to a podium be the one that is responsible for the safety and the security of our country.
Former Trump White House doctor, Congressman Ronnie Jackson, spoke at the national convention.
Every second that Joe Biden remains in the White House, this country becomes less safe.
The White House says the president will carry out his duties fully from Delaware while he self-isolates. I'm Clayton Neville.
Reportedly, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has now become the highest-ranking Democrat to tell President Biden he must, for the good of the party, drop out of the 2024 election. This, as a new poll shows, a large share of Democrats also want Biden to end his candidacy. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
The AP Nork Center for Public Affairs research poll finds nearly two-thirds of Democrats say the president should pull out of the race and let the party pick someone else. The poll was done 2 weeks after the debate flop, and while he spent much of that time in damage control mode.
I know how to do this job.
The poll shows only about 3 in 10 Democrats are extremely or very confident in his mental capability to do it, down from 40% in February. Younger Democrats are especially likely to want to see the president bow out and say they're dissatisfied with him. The AP has obtained a letter sent to Democratic National Committee Rules Committee members, which says the panel will meet Friday. The party said in May it would hold an early roll call vote before the Democratic convention to make sure the president would qualify for Ohio's ballot, which originally had an August 7th deadline. The letter comes a day after some House Democrats said an early vote would stifle debate about a nominee and be a terrible idea. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Day 3 of the Republican National Convention gave the nation a chance to learn about Donald Trump's vice presidential choice as Ohio Senator J.D. Vance spoke about his life and what he stands for. Steve Futterman reports from Milwaukee.
Republicans have sounded very confident all week here in Milwaukee, and that was very apparent at times last night on Day 3 of their convention.
Donald Trump is unstoppable.
Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz mocked the Democrats over the growing uncertainty about who their nominee will be.
They can run Biden from the nursing home, Harris, George Clooney, Robert De Niro, whoever they want to run.
One of the biggest cheers of the night came when Donald Trump's former trade advisor and one of his most devoted supporters, Peter Navarro, walked on stage.
This morning I did walk out of a federal prison.
Navarro had been serving a 4-month sentence for refusing to testify to Congress. He accused Democrats of putting him in jail.
They threw me to the wolves of an anti-Trump jury, and where the D.C. swamp, they convicted me, they jailed me. Guess what? They did not break me.
probably the most moving part of the night.
Hello, America. I'm Christy Shamblin.
Came when several families of military members who were killed during the U.S. withdrawal in Afghanistan spoke to the convention. They were critical of President Biden. This was the father of Hunter Lopez, Herman Lopez.
He failed the American people. He failed the Afghan people. And he failed Hunter. Donald Trump has a proven record of keeping the peace and honoring those in uniform.
But the most anticipated part of the evening came at the end.
I officially accept your nomination to be Vice President of the United States of America.
J.D. Vance formally accepted the GOP nomination as he gave his acceptance speech, and he also gave a bit of a preview of what he will be saying on the campaign trail from now until November.
We need a leader who's not in the pocket of big business, but answers to the working man, union and non-union alike. A leader who rejects Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's Green New scam and fights to bring back our great American factories. We need President Donald J. Trump.
Vance never mentioned abortion. He also never mentioned Ukraine. Tonight, the culmination, Donald Trump will give his acceptance speech. And next month, just down the road in Chicago, Democrats are set to hold their convention. And that could be a very interesting 4 days. I'm Steve Futterman at the Republican Convention in Milwaukee.
The latest on the investigation into the attempted assassination of Donald Trump when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning, beginning in the West. AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy has the Thursday forecast.
In the Intermountain West region, we will once again have some showers and thunderstorms forming mainly over the higher elevations. The activity will be spotty, but also widespread, covering the area from the southwest through the Rockies and westward to the Sierra Nevada. A few of the storms can become gusty, and there is also a risk for some dry lightning strikes, which could start wildfires. The West Coast states will be largely dry under sunshine, and it'll be quite hot across the Northwest again with highs in the 90s and 100s. Farther east, we have a cold front slowly moving southward through the middle Atlantic and into the southeast. This same boundary we've been watching produce severe weather through the northern and central plains early this week, and then continuing to the Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley as well as the northeast and middle Atlantic. It'll settle across Virginia and westward through the Gulf Coast states, and from that we can expect more showers and heavy thunderstorms today through southern Virginia into the Carolinas, as well as westward to Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. These storms will once again have the opportunity to produce gusty winds, hail, and drenching rainfall. In fact, this front will be capable of producing drenching thunderstorms across the southeast for several days. Another risk for strong thunderstorms will form once more over the front range of the Rockies into the western plains states. From eastern Wyoming southward to northeast New Mexico, some of these storms will once again become gusty with hail. Storms will then move into portions of South Dakota southward to the Oklahoma Panhandle late in the day and at night. Meanwhile, the rest of the central and northern plains into the Great Lakes and much of the Northeast will be experiencing much more comfortable weather and a largely dry day, while lower humidity and a decent amount of sunshine. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. As the investigation into the motives of the 20-year-old man who shot and wounded former President Trump last weekend continues, members of Congress received briefings, and some are calling for the director of the Secret Service to be held accountable. John Stolness has that story from Washington.
This was an assassination attempt. You owe the people answers.
Republican Senators John Barrasso and Marsha Blackburn chasing down Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle at the Republican National Convention yesterday. A remarkable scene as two senior lawmakers were demanding answers on how Thomas Matthew Crooks was able to get into position to shoot the former president when they had already deemed him suspicious hours before the shooting. After failing to get her to speak to them, both senators took to social media to demand answers from the agency.
She can run, but she cannot hide, because the American people want to know how an assassination attempt was carried out on former former President Donald Trump.
Yesterday, Chairman of the House Oversight Committee James Comer issued a subpoena compelling Cheadle to appear at a hearing on Monday. The Department of Homeland Security said Cheadle will attend. The House Homeland Security Committee, chaired by Republican Mark Green, will invite law enforcement agencies from Pennsylvania to testify at a separate hearing in the next few days as well. Republican Senator Ted Cruz tells Fox News the briefing senators received yesterday was short on details, leaving a number of questions unanswered.
She should resign today. And to be honest, Joe Biden should fire her yesterday. What does it take to get fired by Joe Biden? It was an absolute security catastrophe.
House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell also among a number of top Republicans calling for Cheadle's resignation. While investigators have yet to find a motive, they reportedly have found Crooks wrote on a gaming platform called Steam, quote, "July 13th will be my premiere. Watch as it unfolds." Fox News reports Crooks did online searches of the following this month: Trump, Biden, when is DNC convention, and July 13 Trump rally, but there is still no trace of any political activism online or in private. John Stolness, Washington.
When we return on America in the Morning, summer tastes like chicken after these messages. Welcome back. Here with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after the NASDAQ sold off as chip stocks sold off. There was some profit taking, and some comments from both the Biden administration and former President Donald Trump did not help the chip industry. The NASDAQ was down more than 2%. It's still up 20% so far this year, while the Dow soared yesterday and it closed above 41,000 for the first time.
When you get a super strong momentum surge and a very broad rally like we've seen in the last several days, it usually has positive implications if you look out a month, 3-6 months in terms of further upside. But often it means you just can't kind of pencil in this same trend, and there's going to have to be a little bit of give and take under the surface.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Amazon's Prime Day 2-day sale, likely a record event for revenue.
Shoppers spent $7.2 billion the first day alone. That was up nearly 12% from last year, according to Adobe. And they expect total sales for the 2-day event around $14 billion, or a 10.5% increase year on year.
CNBC's Kelly Evans. Final estimated numbers from Adobe later today. But the Better Business Bureau notes it was ripe for scammers, with scam emails that looked like they were from Amazon, fake Amazon websites, and more. Home builders started construction on more apartment buildings last month and fewer single-family homes.
Multifamily was really the driver in this month. It was up 22% month to month, still down, though, 23% year over year. And that's because record supply came onto the market both last year and this year. And we are seeing a softening in multifamily rents. They're actually down year over year and have been for the last several months. Single-family starts, though, we're actually down month to month. We did see the average on the 30-year fixed well over 7% for all of June.
CNBC's Diana Olick.
It's looking like this is the summer of chicken.
Well, beef prices are higher so far this summer, up by 10% on average. So this is simple. There's more demand and less supply. That's why beef is higher. But beef prices could be coming down for next year, or at the very least for 2026.
We're at the lowest levels of cattle in something like 50 years. From where we were last year, we're in a better position. You know, the conditions seem to be in place that we should start to be seeing some improvement in the cattle herd.
Bank of America's Peter Galbo on CNBC. Now, since beef is more expensive, and by the way, pork is too, you're now in the summer of chicken.
Chicken prices are down relative to where they were, and that seems to be the best deal for consumers, at least at this point.
On today's watch list, we get earnings from Netflix, Domino's Pizza, and Taiwan Semi.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, calls grow louder for a U.S. Senator to leave Congress after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez is considering resigning from Congress. NBC News is reporting he told two allies in his inner circle that he'll leave the Senate following his conviction on 16 federal corruption charges. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is entertaining an expulsion vote, and New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, also a fellow Democrat, is demanding he step aside. Menendez has said he will appeal the conviction. Also from Washington, a Pentagon leaker will be going back to court. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
Teixeira pleaded guilty in federal court to illegally collecting some of the nation's most sensitive secrets and sharing them on the social media platform Discord. He's facing military charges of disobeying orders and obstructing justice. No date has been set, but the trial will be held at Hanscom Air Force Base outside Boston. At a hearing in May, prosecutors said obeying orders is the absolute core of the military. Court-martial is appropriate. Teixeira's lawyers argued court-martial would amount to prosecuting him twice for the same offense. The leak exposed to the world unvarnished secret assessments of Russia's war in Ukraine, including troop movements in Ukraine. Teixeira also admitted to posting information about plans by an adversary to harm U.S. forces serving overseas. I'm Ed Donahue.
America in the Morning for Thursday, July 18th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, President Biden tests positive for COVID. We have details.
J.D. Vance delivers his acceptance speech.
We need President Donald J. Trump.
I'm Steve Futterman in Milwaukee.
39-year-old senator and Trump's VP pick, J.D. Vance. I'm Clayton Neville.
The boost in security around Donald Trump is apparent at the Republican National Convention. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The U.S. built pier to carry humanitarian aid to Gaza will be dismantled and brought home. Ed Donahue, Washington.
The armorer for the movie Rust asking for a new trial.
The Emmy nominations were announced with some heavy hitters and surprises. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning, the nation's weather this Thursday. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
A cold front will continue to move southward today through the Mid-Atlantic and into the southeast. This is the same boundary we've been watching produce severe weather through the northern and central plains early this week, and then continuing into the Great Lakes, into the Ohio Valley, as well as the northeast and Middle Atlantic. This will settle across Virginia and westward through the Gulf Coast states, and from that we can expect more showers and heavy thunderstorms through southern Virginia into the Carolinas, as well as westward to Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. These storms will once more have the opportunity to produce gusty winds, hail, and drenching rainfall. In fact, the front will be capable of producing drenching thunderstorms across the southeast for several days. Another risk for strong thunderstorms will again be over the front range of the Rockies into the western plain states from eastern Wyoming southward to northeast New Mexico. Some of the storms will once again become gusty with hail. These storms will move into portions of South Dakota southward to the Oklahoma Panhandle late in the day and at night. Meanwhile, the rest of the central and northern plains into the Great Lakes and much of the Northeast will be experiencing much more comfortable weather and a largely dry day with lower humidity and a decent amount of sunshine. After some recently steamy days, today will only be in the 70s and 80s. Farther west in the Intermountain region will once again have some showers and thunderstorms forming over higher elevations. The activity will be spotty, but it will also cover a large area from the southwest northward to the Rockies. That's the weather across America. Denver, Colorado will have sunshine mixing with clouds today and a heavy gusty thunderstorm in the afternoon with a high of 90. It'll be partly sunny and pleasant in Columbus, Ohio with a high near 80. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Don't forget you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. President Joe Biden was campaigning in Las Vegas when he learned he tested positive for COVID and immediately cut short his trip. Lisa Dwyer reports on the president's condition.
The White House says that President Joe Biden is experiencing mild symptoms and will self-isolate at home in Delaware. In a written statement, the White House says that Biden will continue to carry out all of his duties fully during that time. The news was first shared by UNIDO's U.S. President and CEO Janet Murguia, who told guests at the group's convention in Las Vegas where Biden was scheduled to speak.
Regrettably, I was just on the phone with President Biden, and he shared his deep disappointment at not being able to join us this afternoon. The president has been at many events, as we all know, and he just tested positive for COVID. So, of course, we understand that he needs to take the precautions that have been recommended, and he did not obviously want to put anybody at risk.
The president's physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, says in a note that Biden presented with upper respiratory symptoms, to include a runny nose, a non-productive cough with general malaise. After testing positive, Biden was prescribed the antiviral drug Paxlovid and has taken his first dose. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Ohio Senator J.D. Vance speaks at the RNC, his first speech as former President Donald Trump's vice presidential nominee. In Day 3 of the Republican National Convention, Steve Futterman has highlights from Milwaukee.
Republicans have sounded very confident all week here in Milwaukee, and that was very apparent at times last night on Day 3 of their convention.
Donald Trump is unstoppable.
Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz mocked the Democrats over the growing uncertainty about who their nominee will be.
They can run Biden from the nursing home, Harris, George Clooney, Robert De Niro, whoever they want to run.
One of the biggest cheers of the night came when Donald Trump's former trade advisor and one of his most devoted supporters, Peter Navarro, walked on stage.
This morning I did walk out of a federal prison.
Probably the most moving part of the night.
Hello, America. I'm Christy Shamblin.
Came when several families of military members who were killed during the U.S. withdrawal in Afghanistan spoke to the convention. But the most anticipated part of the evening came at the end.
I officially accept your nomination to be Vice President of the United States of America.
J.D. Vance formally accepted the GOP nomination as he gave his acceptance speech.
We need a leader who's not in the pocket of big business, but answers to the working man, union and non-union alike.
Vance never mentioned abortion. He also never mentioned Ukraine. Tonight, the culmination, Donald Trump will give his acceptance speech. And next month, just down the road in Chicago, Democrats are set to hold their convention, and that could be a very interesting 4 days. I'm Steve Futterman at the Republican Convention in Milwaukee.
America is learning more about Trump's pick for VP. Senator J.D. Vance. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
James David Vance, a 39-year-old Marine Corps veteran, a best-selling author, and a senator from Ohio, his home state.
Trump is saying, this is the guy who could help me win Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. And I think Trump feels very good that if he can pick off even one of those, he's probably going to be the next president.
Dr. Matthew Wilson's a political science professor at Southern Methodist University.
J.D. Vance resonates well with particularly blue-collar, Rust Belt folks. That's where he comes from. He's from Ohio. He grew up in poverty.
Senator Vance went to Yale Law School and went on to become an investment banker. In 2016, he rose to national fame over his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. It told the story of how he was brought up in Appalachia and raised by his grandparents. It was later adapted into a movie. First a never Trumper and later a Trump ally after he says he saw Trump's success in the Oval Office. Vance spoke this week at an event in Milwaukee at the Discovery World Science Museum.
President Trump has taken everything that they've thrown at him, and he's come out stronger, and the country has come out better for his service. We should be grateful to him.
Vance has caught grief over his criticism for aid for Ukraine and its war with Russia, including from Ukraine's president. At the United Nations this week, though, the Russian Foreign Affairs Minister said through a translator he supports Vance as Trump's running mate.
He's in favor of peace, in favor of ending the assistance that's been provided, and we can only welcome that because that's what we need to stop pumping Ukraine full of weapons, and then the war will end.
Vance, an up-and-coming politician, still relatively new to it all. He has 3 kids, and his wife went to Yale Law School with him. Critics point to Vance's rhetoric, which they say has been hateful at times. But supporters believe Trump had the future of the party in mind with the pick, doubling down on the MAGA agenda and positioning the movement for longer than just 4 years. I'm Clayton Neville.
The FAA probes Elon Musk failure. That story and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. Police in Milwaukee released details about a man arrested near the RNC. Authorities say 21-year-old Donnell Tinsley was carrying a concealed AK-47 pistol without a permit, wearing a ski mask and a large backpack when officers approached him. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports this is one of the many reasons for the boost in security around Donald Trump, now very apparent at the Republican National Convention.
I have 100% confidence in the director of the United States State Secret Service. I have 100% confidence in the United States Secret Service.
Days after the attempt on his life, the boost in security around Donald Trump is apparent at the Republican National Convention. Last night, running mate J.D. Vance greeted delegates and shook hands while walking to his seat. A few minutes earlier, Trump entered, and a column of Secret Service agents kept him away from the crowd. No handshakes or hellos. His campaign is not talking about the security boost or how that might impact his interactions going forward.
I'm not in a position to share particulars because we do not disclose tactics, techniques, and procedures. But let me say that adjustments have been made to the former president's detail, to the current president's detail, as well as to the vice president's detail.
Homeland Security Chief Alejandro Mayorkas, whose agency oversees the Secret Service, did not offer details earlier this week, but as law enforcement officials warn of the potential for more political violence.
I have 100% confidence in the director of the United States State Secret Service. I have 100% confidence in the United States Secret Service. And what you saw on stage on Saturday with respect to individuals putting their own lives at risk for the protection of another is exactly what the American public should see every single day. It is what I indeed do.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
It's being called both a lifeline to help feed people starving in the Gaza Strip and also a $320 million taxpayer-funded failure. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports the U.S.-built temporary naval pier in Gaza City has been dismantled.
There have been problems involving the pier, including weather and security. It limited the amount of food getting to starving Palestinians. Critics call it a $230 million boondoggle.
The temporary pier has achieved its intended effect to surge a very high volume of aid into Gaza and ensure that aid reaches the civilians in Gaza in a quick manner.
Central Command Vice Admiral Brad Cooper says the pier achieved what it was supposed to do.
The aid delivered via the pier alone is of a historic proportion. Nearly 20 million pounds of aid have been delivered through the pier. It's the highest volume of humanitarian assistance that the U.S. military has ever delivered into the Middle East.
There are questions about Israel's new plan to use the port of Ashdod as a substitute. Sonale Cordy with U.S. Aid says it will be a viable and important route.
The key challenge we have right now in Gaza is around the insecurity and lawlessness that is hampering the distribution once aid gets into Gaza and to the crossing point.
President Biden has said he had hoped the pier would have been more successful. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Back here at home, cleanup continues in the east from 3 storms that includes tornadoes touching down in upstate New York and flooding in the Midwest. There are over 100,000 homes and businesses still in the dark in New York, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, and 3 people were reported killed during the storms. The mayor of Rome, New York, said his town looks like a war zone after a twister flattened businesses and houses. It's scorching in many parts of the nation today, but it's also boiling overseas. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports Greece has shut the iconic Acropolis during the hottest part of the day as southern Europe swelters in a heat wave.
Greece's culture ministry has ordered the closure of the Acropolis, the country's biggest cultural attraction, for several hours in the middle of a day, while authorities warn of extreme heat as southern Europe swelters in sizzling temperatures. British tourist Jordan Liddy says 10 minutes in the sun was enough for him.
We were standing in the sun for maybe like 10 minutes. Even after 10 minutes, I'm feeling the heat.
While Daisy Hatzis from Chicago missed the opening hours of the site.
I wish that they didn't, because we're here to go up there, but I also understand that they may know more than I do and that they're worried that people may not feel well and then they'll have to rescue them. I understand for safety maybe why they did it. People push themselves more than they should.
Meteorologists say the hot air from Africa is forecast to continue for several more days. Temperatures expected to reach 109 Fahrenheit. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Elon Musk's SpaceX lost a Falcon 9 rocket and 20 Starlink satellites last week. Well, now the FAA wants answers. Here's tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Last week, the upper stage of a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket encountered a critical failure shortly after launch and exploded in the upper atmosphere. The rocket was carrying 20 new Starlink satellites. Currently, the FAA has grounded all Falcon 9 launches, pending a joint investigation. SpaceX released information saying that it unexpectedly accumulated substantial amounts of ice before experiencing what CEO Elon Musk referred to as a rapid, unscheduled disassembly. That notwithstanding, the Falcon 9 has successfully had 344 flights in a row and has not had a massive failure since 2016, when a communications satellite was destroyed on the launch pad. Most of the 20 satellites that it was carrying have been tracked and have already burned up in the atmosphere. Cryptos are still trading flat, with Bitcoin at 64,000 and Ethereum at 3,300. For more tech news, visit allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Sports is in this Thursday with Robert Workman.
It was a rare down day in the summer sports schedule as baseball's All-Star break concludes today. The regular season resumes tomorrow. The trade deadline is 12 days away, and 21 of the 30 teams are within 5 games of a playoff spot with 10 weeks to go. Today's focus is on the final major golf tournament of the year, the British Open, or the Open Championship if you prefer, underway this morning at Royal Troon in Scotland. Brian Harman is the defending champion, and the American may have a chance to do a rare double. That hasn't been done since Patrick Harrington won in 2007 and 2008, which came right after Tiger Woods had taken home the Claret Jug in 05 and 06. The weather for the weekend is expected to be rainy, windy, and chilly. That's what they call summertime in Scotland. The Paris Olympics begins next week. USA men's basketball routed Serbia yesterday 105-79 in Abu Dhabi. That's their largest margin of victory in 3 wins during the run-up to the Olympics. Steph Curry had 24 points. They now head to London for games this weekend against South Sudan and Germany. The U.S. has won 4 straight Olympic gold medals. Caitlin Clark had 24 points and a WNBA record 19 assists in the Fever's loss in Dallas in the final regular season game before the W takes a month-long respite for the Olympics. Clark and the WNBA All-Stars will take on Team USA in Saturday's All-Star game in Phoenix. That's Thursday Sports.
Thank you, sir. Double Standard, Baldwin, and The Armorer after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. The armorer for the movie Rust is asking for a new trial on her involuntary manslaughter conviction in light of the fact that actor Alec Baldwin's case on a similar charge was dismissed. Correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports.
The movie Armorer, found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in the death of a cinematographer on the Alec Baldwin movie Rust, has asked a judge to reconsider her conviction after Baldwin's trial on a related charge was dismissed last week.
In this case, this unique case on a movie set, the prop gun was placed in Mr. Baldwin's hands and cold gun was announced, meaning it had been checked and double-checked by those responsible to ensure the gun was safe.
Lawyers for weapons supervisor Hannah Gutierrez-Reed have asked Judge Mary Marlowe Summer to dismiss her conviction or give her a new trial after she was convicted in March of involuntary manslaughter in the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Summer dismissed Alec Baldwin's case on the same charge after she ruled that prosecutors failed to share evidence with Baldwin's defense. Gutierrez-Reed's lawyers say the evidence could have been important to her case as well. Carrie Morrissey, the lead prosecutor on both cases, says her written response will be filed in court next week, and she declined further comment. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
The Television Academy announced their top picks for the 76th Emmy Awards. Kevin Carr has a look.
FX took advantage of scheduling gaps to lead the Emmy nominations. Shogun received 25 nominations, including Best Drama, Anna Sawai for Best Actress, and Hiroyuki Sanada for Best Actor. With HBO's Succession all wrapped up and The White Lotus between seasons, this 17th century Japanese political drama captured the spotlight. Last year's comedy winner, The Bear, earned 23 nominations, including Best Comedy Series, Jeremy Allen White for Best Actor, and Ayo Edebiri for Best Actress. Jamie Lee Curtis and Olivia Colman also received guest acting nominations. Only Murders in the Building got 21 nominations, including Best Acting by Steve Martin and Martin Short. Selena Gomez received her first nomination, and Meryl Streep was nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
What do you want from me? Why don't you run from me?
HBO was not left completely out in the cold, however. True Detective Night Country received 19 nominations, including Jodie Foster for Best Actress and Kaylee Reese for Best Supporting Actress. Netflix received the most nominations, a total of 107 across all categories, with highlights on shows like Baby Reindeer and Ripley. Other major nominations included John Hamm for Fargo, Jennifer Aniston for The Morning Show, Elizabeth Debicki for The Crown, Tony Shalhoub for Mr. Monk's Last Case, and the cast of Abbott Elementary. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Thursday, July 18th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Our senior producer, Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.